Hey everyone, Raven here, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today you are listening to Season 1, Episode 5, Part 1 of a two-part series called Lisa Frank. So, anybody who knows me on a personal level knows I had a small obsession with Lisa Frank school supplies when I was a kid. But hey, what 80s and 90s kid didn't? I'm just saying. So, at some point in time, we knew the subject was going to come up, and this was going to be a podcast topic. So, before we get into this increasingly heavy podcast, I just want to inform you you will be hearing some form of a clicking in the background. My computer has a built in mouse, and I'm reading all my notes off of there, so off my computer. And we will be talking about a small amount of Lisa Frank's personal life prior to Lisa Frank Incorporated, the history of Lisa Frank Incorporated, a few things that kind of um, triggered the metaphor kiss of doom for Lisa Frank Incorporated and the company, and unfortunately left to its instant overnight, or so it seemed, fall of our Technicolor 90s empire. That was Lisa Frank. Do I think it's fair? No. But the more I did research, the more I see why it happened. Do I still want my Lisa Frank? I need my Lisa Frank. Please bring back Lisa Frank. This world is so dark and gloomy without it. I'm just kidding. Anyways, let's get into it. So, Lisa Frank was born on April 21st of 1955. She is the founder of Lisa Frank Incorporated. And while I was digging, I couldn't find much about her dad or her mom, though other people have said that there are subjects relating to them out there. But as many people know, Lisa Frank herself is a very private person. So that may have been silenced over the years. But Lisa Frank's dad was an art collector. He had a very big influence on her work. Excuse me in advance. Forgive me, tickle my throat. And he introduced her to the art stylings of people like Peter Max. Now, here is a picture of Peter Max's work, or one of his workings. Until I researched him, I never heard of him. Now, as you can see, there is a similar composition of his artwork that kind of gives off a Lisa Frank vibe without screaming Lisa Frank. It is very vivid in color, very poppy and in your face, and it kind of resembles something that you would see in a marquee background, doesn't it? Now, at the age of 24, Lisa Frank opened up a kids' jewelry company that she named Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers wound up recycling already being used characters such as Betty Boop, who were pretty popular, and they were becoming some form of an icon for the jewelry, and that jewelry was being sold in places like Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale's, possibly Filings, and more. Now, looking back today, Sticky Fingers itself, if it remained that name, would have been a controversial name from the get-go because it insinuates that you're a klepto or somebody who steals. So probably was not a good choice, and I'm glad she got rid of that name. And in the 70s, Lisa Frank had participated in a senior year art show. and she made $3,000 at least by selling off some of her art. Way to go, girl. Way to become an entrepreneur. And I actually genuinely mean that. Now, Lisa Frank was part of the graduate class of 1972 from a school I'm probably going to pronounce wrong. Forgive me. It's Cranbrook Kingswood School, which was a preparatory school located in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Whew, that was a tongue twister. Ugh. Anyways, Lisa Frank Incorporated was founded in 1979. Lisa Frank was attending the University of Arizona at the time that she launched Lisa Frank Incorporated. As far as I'm aware, she was and still is the CEO of Lisa Frank Incorporated, even to today. She started the company in a guest house before relocating to a 320,000 square foot warehouse 10 years later. So, about 1989. Now, this next one blew my mind. Spencer's Gifts, which many of the 80s and 90s babies recognized as simply Spencer's, was their first million, and I mean $1 million customer. Yeah, I said that. Spencer's was the first one to pay $1 million to Lisa Frank for her products. Wow. Whew. As you can see, she became very popular with the 80s and 90s kids. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, her products were quite literally everywhere. But because they were everywhere and they were super popular, she really took it to the next level and charged a decent amount of money for her products. So it made it, for that time frame, considered expensive. Now, Lisa Frank had started out by doing, paintings and then airbrushing versions of her designs. And in 1989, she switched over to some form of a digitalized design. Do I know how that was a possibility? No. They never really elaborated on that when I was researching this. But then over the course of time, she switched her design style again and again to make it more modernized. Her most iconic bestsellers were stationery sets, bracelet kits, trapper keepers. We now know those as binders that zip up. Pencil cases, pillows, bed sets, stickers, sticker books, and more. Okay? Yeah, that is a lot for somebody who just basically made it seem like she banged this all out overnight. It's amazing. And if you actually think about it, for an iconic person of that day that made this all appear like she banged it out overnight, that is a very tall order and must take a very sound mind to do, because that's a lot of product just to start off with. It's not like one or two things, and it didn't say if this was actually being mass produced at the time or individually produced. So just keep that in mind. Now, in 2016, a social media artist, I don't know if her name is Ariel or Ariel, but her last name is Hart, designed a Lisa Frank inspired tarot card set. If you don't know what a tarot card set is, that's basically the set of cards that if you go to a witch shop or a tarot reader or somebody who puts out your future in front of you, and you can get things like the Lover's card, the future card, and unfortunately the card. And it basically tells you what your future fate is. That is a tarot deck. And that tarot deck from 2016 to 2023 is still a very, very popular tarot deck. Some people actually have some form of a hard copy of it, and most people are downloading it to print it out and make a set for themselves. So that DIY download is still pretty popular today. If you don't believe me, Google search it. There is or was talk about Lisa Frank's work being brought to the silver screen from Hollywood. So yes, that means at one point in time there was or is currently talk about Lisa Frank possibly having some form of a documentary or movie, or maybe we could even wind up getting a now Netflix series regarding Casey Markey and all them. That would be cool. However, as all things go, it has been since heavily silenced. There has been very little information on that. Even when I dug for it, there was barely anything on it other than what I just said. Now, Lisa Frank at one point in time was also planning on constructing, wait for it, drum roll please, a theme park starring her beloved characters. I'm sure you're all screaming with joy and excitement right now, because inside I am. But, like I said, unfortunately, everything happens for a reason, and we will probably never see that. Unfortunately. And this part of the segment, I'm going to intentionally title Goodbye, Lisa Frank. And as the old saying goes, anything of greatness always has an ending. And just like that, we have to talk about the dark side of Lisa Frank. I am so sorry, Miss Frank. Please forgive me, and please do not attempt to sue me. Thank you. After looking deeper into the interwebs regarding Lisa Frank, I came across several different articles. All of them basically said the same thing. There were several legal issues that arose in the later years regarding Lisa Frank and Lisa Frank Incorporated. They became the highlight for several legal disputes, copyright infringement claims, and other legal issues. So much so that employees intentionally tainted the reputation of the company by declaring Lisa Frank and her then husband, James Green, were mistreating their employees. I know, heartbreaking. You would never expect that for somebody whose entire franchise was almost quite literally rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. Now, employees had claimed that their calls were illegally being recorded, and employees were not allowed to talk to one another. So if your next door neighbor's name was Jenny, and you and Jenny worked at Lisa Frank Incorporated, and you had a desk beside each other, Guess what? You're not allowed to talk about anything, not even work. Okay? So you can't tell Jenny that you're going off with Timmy over the weekend to go to the drive-in movie to see Jaws. You can't talk about anything Lisa Frank Incorporated. You are basically told from the get-go that you have to pretend like you're the only one in the company. It's awful. That's truly, truly awful. Eventually, with many court proceedings and a lot of whispers through the community circulating, the employment rate for Lisa Frank Incorporated severely, and I mean severely, decreased. There were allegations of Lisa Frank and her company micromanaging the employees and also paying unfair, unlivable wages. Man, this world, they need to stop caring so much about money and care about the people that help make the company success. Like, what the heck, man? Eventually, with the community spreading warnings to stay clear of LFI, Lisa Frank Incorporated, more turmoil had began to rise. Lisa Frank and at that time her then husband James had filed for divorce. No surprise. Now, that added more struggles to the already financially impacted company. As of 2018, Lisa Frank Incorporated LFI no longer produces their own products. So all of those products you're seeing, like Morphe and Crocs and all that, that's not actually from Lisa Frank's warehouse. They're basically collabs that are paid for the licensing rights. Weird, right? Now, there is a website called themarysue.com that cited Lisa Frank Incorporated LFI has sued several companies regarding copyright infringement with little to no proof backing these claims. Let's back up. Let me reread that again. LFI, Lisa Frank Incorporated, had sued several companies regarding copyright infringement with little to no proof backing their claims. What? What? All right, let's get more into that. Lisa Frank Incorporated, LFI, declares that they are using, that these companies are using a trademark color palette. Okay. And art style. As you see, this picture above shows a character that a Twitter user, I'm probably going to pronounce this name wrong, Geneva, drew up and posted on May 12th of 2022 to promote her bubble tea. Is now one of the quote-unquote offenders. Let's hope I do not get sued by LFI for resharing that. Now, this next photo is artist Ursula Jeff, or Goff, showing that she was even forced to take down one of her artworks because it was flagged as Lisa Frank Incorporated owned rights to it. What? I see nothing linking that to that. For those whom don't believe me, this is the receipt. Now, on August 18th of 2022, YouTuber influencer Bailey Sarian, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, also made a video regarding the dark history of Lisa Frank, which I will tell you is not for the kiddos. There's a lot of dark, heavy stuff that I'm not covering here that she covers because I do not feel comfortable talking about it. Now, as you're sitting back listening to this podcast, everybody's probably sitting here going, Raven, what happened to the factory? Well, if you were standing up listening to this, you might want to sit down. And I am sorry to anybody who is hurt by these next set of words. As of April 15th, 2023, as cited by website architecturalafterlife.com, the Tucson, Arizona factory for LFI now remains abandoned. Such a loss. Its closed doors that once hid away all the amazing, vibrant wonders of a cartoon world that many adored and adorned for years is now a grim reminder of what became of our yesteryear. How defamatory remarks and unprofessionalism can harm or end a billion-dollar industry overnight. The iconic characters we cherish are now only a mere memory, lost, but never forgotten. But is this truly the end of Lisa Frank? Check back for part 2. So, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. I do truly appreciate it. Before you head out, please don't forget to comment, rate, and make sure you slam that notification bell for me, please. And when you do, hit all notifications. That way you can keep posted of all my future podcasts. And I have about 3 more subjects that I'm heavily researching right now that will be coming within the month. So, until then, catch you on the flip side. Raven Knight out.